Welcome to this topic video on CSS selectors, probably better called more selectors. So what are we going to talk about? We need to learn to make more targeted selections. The main way we're going to learn about that is combinators. We're going to want to be able to select and then style elements based on the state they may be in. And we're going to see a lot of nifty user interface features are actually enabled this way. We're going to learn to add special stuff via CSS as part of styling, okay, via CSS and with the technique called pseudo elements. Then we're going to learn how to select some stuff based on HTML attributes. Okay, what attributes something possesses. Okay, please read up on these things. Particularly the combinators is pretty important. Okay, we are not going to use everything. Okay, but you want to know these things exist because if you have a problem, what do I mean by a problem? Let's say you have to style a page where you don't control the HTML, so you can't just add a lot of classes. Okay, or other special user interface situations. There are a lot of solutions out here. Okay, so take a look. Okay, so read at least the introductions to all these sections. Okay, well, let's get going. Okay, so we're going to be learning about additional selector types. Combinators, which allow us to combine selectors in useful ways. Okay, pseudo-classes, pseudo-elements, and attribute selectors. Combinators. Okay. A lot of times we want to be able to select things not just based on their tag or class or ID, but also what they're contained in, who's their parent, okay, or are they the immediate descendant, like a child, okay, so who's their parent in terms of containment hierarchy, who are they next to, meaning their adjacent sibling, or a general sibling, okay? So who are you next to? That gets translated into calling it a sibling element. A descendant means who you're contained in, and a child means immediate descendant, okay? So we have spaces we put between any two selectors to say we want stuff that's a descendant. We use the greater than symbol for child, and adjacent sibling, we use a plus, and general sibling, we use the twiddle, okay? The one I expect you to remember is the space, okay? So let's see a fairly complicated example, okay? So here's a section. The section contains H2, paragraph, paragraph. These are descendants because they're contained in it, and they are direct descendants, so we call them children, or their child. Div is a direct descendant of section. This H2, though, is not a child of section, it's a child of div. Okay, so we see some differentiation here. Okay, because we're going to use some descendant selectors. Okay, section. Okay, this is general selection. So every P within a section should get a coloring of blue. Section. Child selector, the greater than symbol. Every paragraph that's a direct child should get a background color of yellow. Okay. Let's look at this directly. So if you click on this link, open in a new tab, you'll get something like this. So where were we? Let's go back and say, well, our explanation. We have to look at the CSS precisely. Okay. So what did we say? And our HTML. We have one section. This section has direct children of heading, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. We said that section with the direct sentence, and paragraph should get a background color of yellow. Okay, so the first two paragraphs are direct to sentence. They get the background color of yellow. These two paragraphs aren't direct children. Okay. Here we have H2 with a direct and adjacent sibling. So that means, are you next to the H2? So the paragraph directly next to the H2. Let's see which ones those are. Okay, so here's a paragraph directly next to an H2. Here's a paragraph directly next to an H2. Okay. What is the styling they're supposed to get? Text transform uppercase. So that means the first paragraph after a heading gets text transformed to uppercase. Now, transforming something to uppercase isn't useful, but think, you could also give it an indentation. You could give it a special font style like italics, whatever you want for like something, meaning this is an intro paragraph. Okay, you can do that all with selectors. Okay, any sibling of H2 gets a dashed line for its border. Did we get a dashed line? All these guys got dashed lines for the borders because all these paragraphs are direct siblings of a heading. Okay, or arbitrary siblings, sorry. Like I said, I don't remember all these ones. I remember descendant, because that applies to any descendant of section. Okay, so that's the one I remember. The others I look up if I need them. Okay, even the definitions I need them. Okay. Another important combinator is one which it's called the AB combinator. It matches both A and B at the same time. This is used a lot with classes, okay, to style things. For example, here we see this styling, section, dot, answer. What's this doing? It's gluing together the tag selector for a section with the dot answer selector for the class answer. Okay, take a look. Okay. So here is a short problem, okay? Blah, 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 blah. Paragraph, we put this one within here. We go section, class, answer, okay? Section, answer. What was the thing here? The thing here was section, answer. So section, answer is going to get fancy styling. It's going to get a border style solid, border width 2, border color dark magenta. Is there any place else that uses a section and an answer? Here's a paragraph with a class answer. Oh, but it's not within the section. It's not a section with class answer. How's this going to get styled? This part, this section answer, gets this nice border around it. Okay, the magenta border. Down here, it's answer. So it may get some styling, but it's not styling that is shown here. Okay. So this allows us to style things with a specific class and tag. Okay, used a lot. This AB combinator like this of a tag plus a class used all the time. You'll be expected to know it and use it. Okay. Multiple selectors. You can have multiple selectors and apply the same rule. Just separate them with a comma. Okay. So, no example. Well, that's terrible. Let's do an example. Okay. So what I did up here was I put in a bunch of headings. So now let's go look at that example. Not that example. Multiple selector example. Copy. Go to, okay, let's put in style block, style, style, style. Did it do something? Oh, maybe it did. Not obvious enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a wild font on my machine. Okay. So here, this is a Windows machine. I looked up how to find fonts that are installed on Windows. I'm going to go and try this font here, Bernard MT. Okay. Why? Because it's weird looking. Okay. So let's try it. Bernard MT. Okay. So all these guys got the styling. If I get rid of the styling on the H6, get rid of it on the H4, here you can see that everything that's listed here with a comma between them gets the styling. Okay. H4 is no longer on this list, so it doesn't get the styling of that font family. And if you look over here, you can see that this styling got applied to my entire page rather than just this block here. All right. CSS selectors. Okay. The multiple selector. Okay. You'll see this a lot when you, if you look at the CSS for CSS frameworks, because that's how they set like a whole mess of styles to a whole mess of elements to start off with the default. Now, these selectors look complicated. Okay, so we can actually try out the selectors from our console. Okay, so we're going to use the command from our developer's console, document, query selector all, and then we put whatever we'd like, whatever selector we're trying to test here. What this will do is it'll select and return an array of the elements in the document. So let's try it. Okay. Let's try it with this really complicated looking. Okay. So Control Shift I. I'm going to go for the developer console. Okay, the character encoding. I forgot to put my character encoding here, so it gives me a little warning. I'm going to put this over to the right so you can see things clearer. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go oh, see, it knows about document dot query. Oh, it knows about that. Query selector, but I want query selector all. Okay. Query selector all. Okay. Now, if I put P for a paragraph tag, wow, it returned already. Okay. It's going to say, get a node list of every paragraph. Okay. This is really, really, really nice, as you're seeing here. Okay. Selected all those things, and we can see how many there are, and we can see which ones it's selected. So now let's try for selecting all the descendants. Try the descendants select. Document, query selector all. There are 4 paragraphs that meet this criteria. All right, and these were the ones that got the blue color. Okay, so we can try out any of these complicated things and use them to help us find things in the page. Okay. What kind of things might you use this for? Helping to screen scrape pages. This is actually our first time where we've seen what's known as the document model, object model interface. Okay. So this is actually showing us an example of just one of the many, many features available via the document object model. Okay. We can test our selectors. Okay, so if we have to go with complicated selectors, we can. Pseudo-classes. What are they? Well, the format is a keyword followed by a colon that is added on the end of selectors to specify that we want something extra, okay? Only these elements when they're in a certain state. There are three general categories of these things: user feedback, state related, and special relations. So user feedback is like, does an element have the focus? This is particularly used for input elements, part of the user interface. Okay, we don't use this on plain text and images. Hover, okay, matches when the user is hovering over an element with a pointing device but hasn't activated it. Active is when somebody actually clicks on it. Okay. As you can guess, these some of these are very subtle. Hover is not subtle, but the others are subtle. They're used to provide proper user feedback to help guide people. If you've ever used a user interface where it's like, I can't find anything, did something happen? It's generally because they haven't thought through the user interface and used the appropriate features. Okay. Now, hover. This is a special paragraph. When I hovered over it, it gets changed to the color blue, and the background color gets changed to blue, and the text color gets changed to white. Right? It's black text gets changed to white text with a blue background. If I go to the next one, it does something completely weird. Okay, it brings up a whole something else that wasn't even there. We couldn't see before. A secret message, code the web. How did we do this? With the hover selector. Okay, so my special paragraph, this was the special paragraph. And here we said a secret message. So that's another place we're going to hover. But then we have this paragraph that doesn't show up at all. Huh, interesting. The CSS for my special paragraph hover, the starting paragraph, the first paragraph we saw up here, this guy, nice and simple. You should understand everything here. Okay, ID selector, pseudo-class, hover. Oh, I set the background color while it's being hovered, and only in the hover state. I set the background color to blue and the text color to white. Okay, when I'm not hovering it, it goes back to the default. Now, what's this? Dot secret. That's a class selector, so we understand that. Okay, this is class secret. Okay, that's good. Oh, but we haven't learned about display none. I guess you might figure that's what hides it. Okay. Hub target. Oh, we haven't learned about that one. Position relative. So never mind. We'll learn about that later on displays, on CSS positioning. Okay, hub target, hover. Oh, so this is going to apply when this guy is hovered, and it's going to apply it to the P secret, right? Because this is a descendant selector. So when this thing is being hovered, okay, what are we going to do to P secret? When it's being hovered, we're going to show it, absolutely. We're going to display it as a block, taking away the display none, and that gives us that effect. Okay, we're going to learn more about that on CSS display and positioning. That's going to come up in a couple weeks. Okay, used all the time for making drop-down menus and such. Okay, you need hover for that. State related. Something can be checked. Something can be disabled, like if you're disabling a button. Okay. Inputs could be valid or invalid. Okay, on a form or input element. Okay. So here's an example. Style. What kind of tag is it? Selector this is? An ID selector. Why? Here's an input ID, my mail. What type is it? It's an email input. So it's looking for email. If it's valid, I say my mail dot pseudo selector valid background color light green. If it's invalid, well, how do they know if my email is valid or not? Let's see. Oh, let's try it. Greg. Oh, because it doesn't have an @ sign. It doesn't have a domain name. Oh, I guess that could be just me. Network.com. It's not actually checking that email exists, but that it could be a valid email used in the email system. When it's invalid, okay, you can't leave it with the dot. I give it that styling of red. Am I doing this check? No, the element, oops, sorry. The element itself is told it's email, and it's trying to check whether it's a valid email. And I just style it in those two different states. I do not recommend those colors, but okay. Special relations. I'm not sure why these are pseudo classes and not pseudo elements, but such as like, oh, I can get the first child, the last child, the nth child? What? The nth child has this weird syntax. Nth child, blah, an plus b, where you set the a and the b. Okay? If this thing matches an element that with the a n plus b minus 1 siblings, what? What's all this for? If this is a 2 and this is a 1, it'll be the odd elements. If this is a 2 and this is a 0, it'll be the even elements. Huh? Why would I care? Tiger stripes. Okay? So here's the example. Style. Let's just take the whole thing and plunk it into someplace in fun. Okay? Seesaws. Tiger stripes. Okay, how are you watching it? Pseudo elements. Pseudo elements are very much like pseudo classes, but they have a difference. Okay, they have a keyword, then you'll have double colons. Okay, that added to the end of the selector. So let's see what those are like. Okay, after, before, we can actually add content. Okay, first letter, first line. That sounds almost like a pseudo class to me. Okay, selection and backdrop. I haven't used those. Okay, before and after. Okay, what's this going to look like? Let's take a copy. We copied it. Let's read the style first. What do we have going on in here? Span. We have a span. The class is SLY. Okay, so the span with what's SLY stand for silly. It's a silly class. Span.silly, color, some interesting color. Span.sly before, I'm going to add these double things to it. Span.sly after, content, I'm going to add some other stuff to it. What's this going to do? Let's go over to what's going on here? A paragraph. A paragraph. Span. Yes, it is a paragraph. To demonstrate the use. Why else would it be here? I see. All this syntax, all this extra stuff here. I styled this little sly comment. Maybe that's what I meant. Sly comment, not silly comment. And I put extra stuff in front of it. Can I change what I put in front of it? You bet. Let's do that. Okay, so first of all, color. How about blue? Blue. Okay, that's easier. Let's make the thing in front of it be just a parenthetical expression, and the thing after. Now, this is somewhat useful, okay, but my particular use here isn't terribly great, but we could use it for a parenthetical expression type of thing that we wanted to put in, okay, or say you're script writing and it's going between the two different people or something, they're giving dialogue. Maybe not so good an example. I know where it's used natively in a lot of browsers is with how they style quotes. Okay, they style quotes by using to get this nice. They use before content to be the curved quotes in the one way, and the after to be the curved quotes the other way. So this is actually how you get. They actually style nice quotes like we saw in the HTML2 video. Okay. So that's an example of a pseudo element. Another nifty pseudo element, okay, is the first letter, first line. Okay, so here ID equals A, ID equals B. Once again, not great ID names. This is just a demonstration. We don't really want to overdo IDs because of requirements, but this is making an easy to see example. So let's copy that, put it into CSource. We'll send that away as a message. So we've got, oh, that's a cool effect. Look, we made the first letter really big. We made it twice the size, font style, bold. Twice the size and bold. And the first line, okay, in this paragraph, we made it italics. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I do have to say. I like that one. Okay. Once again, you don't have a need for these all the time. Know they exist. Just keep that in the back of your head and look them up. Okay. Know there's a way to do this. Another first letter example. Okay. Another first letter example, etc. Okay. Attribute selectors. What are they? Remember, we can different elements can have a variety of different attributes. Okay. We're going to allow matching on attribute values. Okay, and the general syntax is a square bracket. Okay, and some stuff inside it. Syntax: attribute selects all elements just if they have that value. Attribute equals a value. Attributes doesn't equal a value. Okay. So let's try this. But it's like, what attributes, Professor, and what values, and what can we do? We can actually add attributes ourselves. There's something known as the data attribute. Okay, you are allowed to add this to any HTML item. Okay, and the syntax is data dash whatever name you'd like. Okay, and then you put in your attribute, so you can make up your own. So here I'm giving a list of choices. Okay, and we see that I put in a data attribute. Data-answer, I made this up. This one is set to true because this is the answer. Now I don't, so let's go copy and try styling this one. Send that off as a message to myself because class isn't open. Okay. Okay, so here we have a bunch of items. Okay. We're going to style. And we're aiming to style the one with this attribute, and the attribute is data answer. Style. The attribute selector looks like this: data answer, because that's the name of the attribute. Okay. I'm going to say color blue. And of course, I have to terminate this. Now, professor, yes, you just put data answer. Yeah, I could take this, data answer, and say data answer false. Oh, but both of them are selected. If I want to select just the ones that are true, I go true. Okay, so it matches the one with the exact attribute. Or I could do something like this: good, better. Okay, using true and false is probably confusing. So let's go better gets style. The one with data attribute better gets style. Okay, and we could actually give them different colors, etc., based on a data attribute. Okay. I've mostly seen this stuff used in data attributes. These data attributes used with data visualization systems. I can't remember if I saw it used with D3 and such like that, but it's convenient. It allows you to put stuff, some data information straight into your HTML. Okay, and it's easy then for JavaScript to go and extract. Okay, there are other things, substring attribute selectors. Okay. So if you've got a need, these things exist. Have I used them much? Not personally. Now, you check if they exist, but then you also check their status. You can go to a place, can I use? You can then type in, I'm looking for attribute selector, okay, or I want to see about pseudo element. Okay, let's do a particular. After. The after pseudo element, we see that this is, whoops. I don't care about animation support. I just wanted to see generated contract for pseudo elements. It's well supported all over the place. Extra features like putting in animation there, not so great. Okay, so I go to can I use, and MDN is helping keep this stuff together. Just can I use has a nice search engine for finding this stuff. So those are attribute selectors. So what did we see here? Combinators, really important to help us select things. Pseudo elements, we use that for the hover, various specific states. Pseudo classes we use for hovers, things that are in a particular state. Pseudo elements to add stuff before and behind things, first line, first letter. Okay, and then we saw attribute selectors. Okay, have fun with that. Bye-bye.